If you thought the corruption scandal in Minnesota was bad, wait until you see what's now happening to the governor of California. With federal investigators closing in from multiple directions, his own chief of staff pleading guilty to federal felonies, his wife's charity under criminal scrutiny by the DOJ and the FBI, and now J.D. Vance, the fraud czar himself, with his crosshairs locked squarely on Sacramento. The political star of the grease monkey himself, Gavin Newsom, is falling, and you're about to find out exactly why. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. On June 15th, Gavin Newsom went full panic mode on X, where he released a video announcing that President Trump had directed the Department of Justice to investigate him and his wife, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, over allegations tied to so-called behested payments. Now, behested payments are a practice in which Newsom pressured companies doing business with or regulated by the state of California to donate millions of dollars to Jennifer's nonprofit, the California Partners Project, in what investigators are scrutinizing as a potential pay-to-play corruption scheme. Newsom, of course, did his best to turn it around to his own political favor, claiming that he is a victim of a political witch hunt.
Donald Trump picked the wrong target. We have nothing to hide.
Now, what does that remind you of? I mean, can you see the finger wagging in the Oval Office? I did not have sex with that woman. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Ms. Lewinsky. I never told anyone to lie. Never in my whole life. I mean, it's patently comical at this point. This rabbit hole surrounding Newsom and his seedy web of corruption apparently runs very, very deep. Let's start with the investigation itself, because here's the first thing you need to know. Newsom, of course, is claiming this is a politically motivated witch hunt by Donald Trump. Again, nice try. Even CNN, yes, CNN, confirmed that this investigation was not initiated by Trump-appointed officials in Washington. It was started last year by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Sacramento, California's own capital, based on whistleblower tips from within Newsom's own staff. Grand jury subpoenas have been issued, witnesses have been interviewed, financial documents belonging to the Newsom family have reportedly been obtained by investigators. This thing is real. It's serious. And it started long before anyone in Washington decided to make it a priority. So what exactly are they investigating? Well, there are really two tracks here, and both of them lead directly back to Gavin Newsom. So track one is Newsom's wife, Jennifer Siebel Newsom. Jennifer runs a gender equity nonprofit called the California Partners Project. And here's where it gets interesting. Gavin Newsom has used a legal mechanism called a behested payment to funnel over $4.4 million in donations from private companies directly into his wife's nonprofit. Now, a behested payment is when a public official asks private entities, often companies that do business with or are regulated by the state, to donate to a charity of the official's choosing. Now, is it technically legal? Yes. But is it ethically a nuclear disaster? Absolutely. And here's why. The donors include Silicon Valley Bank, the Pritzker family, Native American tribes, Blue Shield of California, and get this, AT&T, which donated $185,000 to Jennifer's nonprofit, but then in turn received $260 million in California state contracts. Comcast donated $15,000 to her nonprofit, and lo and behold, they received $20 million from the state. Kaiser Permanente donated $20,000, and what do you know? They in turn received $172 million from the state. Are you seeing the pattern here? Are you seeing how this works? Pay to play, baby. You donate to the governor's wife's charity, and suddenly you find yourself swimming in California state contracts. And all the while, Jennifer herself, she's been collecting, man. I kid you not, $3.7 million in salary from her own nonprofit over the last decade, $150,000 a year, plus another $150,000 a year to her private production company, Girls Club LLC, for writer, director, producer fees. So she's making $300,000 off this stuff. Not bad. Investigators are now looking very carefully at whether any of this crosses into things like tax fraud or personal use of nonprofit funds or outright corruption. And the California Fair Political Practices Commission has already fined the greasy Gavin Newsom $13,000 last year for failing to timely report over $14.3 million in behested payments. So at least at one level, he's already been caught. He's already been fined. And now the feds are treating that like smoke and looking for the fire. And it looks like they found it. And boy, is it hot. But first, have you noticed how fast the world is changing right now, with every single week bringing another headline about companies cutting workers, prices going higher, and families wondering if the old plan still works? Because for years, the establishment told us, go to work, trust the system, put money in a 401k, and everything will be fine. But what happens when your paycheck, your retirement, and your entire family's future are all tied to decisions made by people who you'll never meet? And that's exactly how they keep you dependent. But what if you did not have to stay trapped in that system? What if you were just one trade plan away from a more independent financial future? And that's the message inside the name Backpack Trader. It's not about Wall Street. It's not about staring at screens all day. It's about learning a simple plan you can carry with you, a plan that can help you build skill, confidence, and real choices from wherever you are. And now I know some of you are saying, come on, Steve, stock trading, isn't that risky and complicated? And I understand that completely because I was skeptical too, which is exactly why I trust my good friend Troy Noonan, the Backpack Trader, who spent 35 years perfecting a step-by-step approach for everyday people like you and me. And I know it works because I'm actually a member of his program myself. And here's what makes Troy different. He shows you how to prove the plan before you risk a single penny of your hard-earned money in the markets. So go to backpacktrader.com/TurleyFreedom right now, because Troy is hosting a free live training called Backpack Trader Live on Wednesday, July 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And when you register, he's going to send you his 12 Powers to Successful Trading ebook. And when you show up live, you're going to unlock the private replay of our Turley Roundtable with Troy, me, and real Backpack Trader patriots. So go to backpacktrader.com/TurleyFreedom, reserve your spot, and let's go get that bright, beautiful future that's waiting for you together. So here's where track 2 of this investigation comes in, and it hits even closer to home. This isn't ultimately about Newsom's wife's charity. This is about him. It's about his own office, specifically his own chief of staff. In May of this year, Dana Williamson, Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff, his top aide, the person who ran his office, walked into federal court and pleaded guilty to 3 federal felonies. 3. She pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit bank fraud, wire fraud, and filing a false tax return. She faces up to 30 years in federal prison and over $1 million in fines. She and her co-conspirators were charged with stealing $225,000 from a dormant campaign account belonging to Javier Becerra, the former California Attorney General. She lied to the FBI. She filed false tax returns. She fraudulently deducted personal expenses. We're talking like veterinary bills and home goods, payments to family members as business expenses. Now, what's so key to get here is this wasn't merely a staff member of Gavin Newsom. This was Gavin Newsom's chief of staff. Again, it wasn't some low-level staffer in the Parks Department. This is the person who sat at the right hand of the governor of California, and she just admitted in federal court to committing 3 felonies. Now, of course, Newsom is desperately trying to distance himself from all that. He said he finds the news distressing and hard and that he didn't know the details. But again, here's the question investigators are asking and beginning to probe. How on earth did you not know what your own chief of staff was doing? How does this happen in your office, on your watch, and you claim you had no idea? The answer obviously does not pass the smell test, so now enter the fraud czar. President Trump appointed Vice President J.D. Vance to lead the White House Anti-Fraud Task Force, and Vance has been on an absolute tear. You may remember just a few weeks ago, Vance issued a criminal referral to the DOJ against Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison for their role in that state's massive fraud scandal. And Vance has made crystal clear that California is next. The feds have already launched a criminal investigation into homelessness fraud across 7 Southern California counties. The FBI, the IRS, and the HUD Inspector General, they're all working together. Do you remember that $24 billion that California spent on homelessness programs with no way to track where any of it went? You remember that? The DOJ has already brought fraud charges against 2 LA real estate developers tied to homeless housing funding. 70 hospices in Los Angeles were suspended by Vance's anti-fraud task force, you know, the hospice fraud scandal. And Newsom, who vetoed bipartisan transparency legislation that would have caught these fraudsters years ago, is right at the center of all of it. Again, keep in mind, Newsom vetoed the bipartisan bill that would have tracked the $24 billion in missing homelessness funds. I mean, these aren't the actions of an innocent man. These are the actions of someone who desperately did not want anyone looking too closely. And the voters are starting to figure it out, because the deeper you dig into what's happening in blue state America, from Minneapolis to Los Angeles to Sacramento, the more you see the same pattern. Money flows from taxpayers to the state, from the state to the cities, from the cities to the nonprofits, from the nonprofits to the politically connected. And somewhere along the way, it disappears. Everyone gets paid. Everyone gets their cut. Everyone, that is, except the people they were supposed to help, except the homeless people sleeping on the streets of Los Angeles that all the money was supposed to go to. And the people responsible, well, they call themselves compassionate. They lecture you about democracy and the rule of law, and then they stuff the cash in their wife's charity accounts and veto the transparency bills that might expose them. The good news is that J.D. Vance has them in his sights. The FBI has them in their sights. The IRS has them in their sights. And with Newsom fuming and squirming on X, all the while his own chief of staff is cutting plea deals in federal court, I gotta say, the grease monkey of Sacramento has got a lot of explaining to do. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. I want to hear what you have to say. And as always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button for breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless.